I'm Rachel Harper, and I'll never forget the morning my mother-in-law, Margaret Ellis, stormed into my life like a hurricane wrapped in a silk scarf. It was a humid Savannah morning, the kind where the air clings to your skin like a second shirt. I opened the front door, and there she stood, tailored navy suit, lipstick sharp as a blade, clutching a leather purse like it held state secrets. Margaret, the woman who'd spent 7 years reminding me I'd never measure up to her son, David, didn't wait for a hello. "We're seeing the lawyer," she said, brushing past me into my own house like she owned every plank of the hardwood floor. "I know about the inheritance. Eleanor Tate's estate. Why didn't you tell me?" My heart stopped. I'd only learned about it the night before, a call from a lawyer, a letter from David's great-aunt Eleanor, someone I barely knew. How did Margaret know? I hadn't even told Mia, my 15-year-old daughter, who was still asleep upstairs. I followed Margaret into the kitchen, my bare feet cold against the tile, my mind racing. She was already scanning the room like a health inspector, her eyes landing on the half-empty cereal box on the counter. "Still buying this junk," she muttered, opening my fridge and letting it snap shut. "No wonder Mia's so thin. Do you even know what she needs?" 7 years. That's how long I'd endured Margaret's visits, her critiques, her way of turning every choice I made into proof I was failing. 7 years since David's car accident left me and Mia alone, and I let Margaret in because I thought Mia needed a grandmother, because I was too broken to argue. But that morning, her words cut deeper than usual. I stood there, gripping the edge of the counter, feeling the weight of every time I'd stayed silent. "We're seeing the lawyer at 10, she said, sitting at my table, smoothing her skirt with a flick of her wrist. "Change into something decent." I've cleared my day. The inheritance, a townhouse in Savannah's historic district, a cottage on Tybee Island, and a sum of money I couldn't yet fathom, was real. Eleanor Tate, a woman I'd met only a handful of times, had left it all to me. I didn't know why, but her letter, tucked in my nightstand, burned in my mind. "Don't let anyone make decisions for you, Rachel. Especially not those who claim it's for your own good." Margaret didn't know about the letter. She didn't know I was starting to hear my own voice again. And as she sat there, already planning my future, I felt something shift, a spark of defiance I hadn't felt in years. The night before Margaret's ambush, I sat at my kitchen table, still in my City Hall slacks, staring at a creamy envelope with my name in Eleanor Tate's elegant cursive. The call had come after dinner, a calm voice, Mr. James Whitaker, a Savannah lawyer, saying, "Eleanor Tate named you the sole beneficiary of her estate." I thought it was a mistake. Eleanor, David's great-aunt, was a shadow in our lives, someone I'd met at our wedding, then once at Mia's 5th birthday when she brought a tiny notebook for Mia to write her dreams in. I hadn't seen her in a decade. I opened the letter slowly, my hands trembling. Asterisk, "Dear Rachel, if you're reading this, I'm gone. Don't mourn me, I've lived a full, wild life. I'm leaving you my home, my cottage, and what money I have, not out of pity, but because I see you. You're stronger than you know. Don't let anyone steal your choices, even if they say they love you. Live a life that's yours." Asterisk, I read it 3 times, tears blurring the ink. Eleanor, who barely knew me, saw the part of me I'd buried, the girl who once wrote poetry in high school, who dreamed of a life bigger than paychecks and permission. I hadn't always been this quiet. Growing up in a small Georgia town, I learned to keep my head down from my mom, who worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat. When I met David, his easy laugh and steady hands felt like safety. But after he died, I leaned on Margaret, grateful for her casseroles, her help with Mia's school pickups. Somewhere along the way, her help became control, her voice louder than mine, her plans replacing my own. I stopped writing, stopped dreaming, told myself it was for Mia. But Eleanor's letter cracked something open. As I sat there, the house quiet except for the hum of the fridge, I wondered, what if I could be more than the widow who just gets by? Margaret sat at my kitchen table, pulling a notebook from her purse like she was about to close a real estate deal. "I've made a list," she said, her voice all business. "Estate value, taxes, investment options. We'll need a financial advisor after the lawyer. You can't handle this like it's pocket change, Rachel." Her words stung. each one a reminder of the years she'd called me careless, overwhelmed, not enough. I looked around my small kitchen, the chipped mugs on the drying rack, Mia's sketchbook on the counter, the sunlight filtering through faded curtains. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. For Mia's sake, she added, leaning forward, I'll take care of it. Those words, for Mia's sake, were her favorite weapon, cutting deeper every time. My hands clenched under the table, but I stayed quiet, the way I always had. 7 years of nodding, agreeing, letting her decide what school Mia should attend, what groceries I should buy, even how I should grieve David. I told myself it was easier, that her money and status meant she knew better. But now, with Eleanor's letter echoing in my head, I wasn't so sure. That afternoon, as we walked to the lawyer's office on Abercorn Street, Margaret rattled off her plan, appraisals, bank visits, title changes. Her heels clicked like a metronome, keeping time to her control. But when she said, "You're lucky I'm here to guide you," I saw something in her eyes, fear. Not of me, but of what this inheritance meant. I didn't need her anymore. She sensed it, and it terrified her. That's when she leaned in, her voice low. "If you don't let me help, Rachel, I'll make sure people know you're not fit to raise Mia. Social services might need to step in." My stomach dropped, but Eleanor's words held me steady. Don't let anyone decide for you. For the first time, I didn't just hear her, I believed her. That night, after Margaret left, I couldn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table, her notebook in front of me, pages filled with her neat handwriting, budgets, timelines, her vision for my inheritance. Every line screamed control, her initials scrawled like a signature on my life. I thought of the girl I used to be, scribbling poems in the margins of my notebooks, dreaming of a life where I called the shots. Somewhere along the way, I'd let Margaret convince me I wasn't capable. No more. I grabbed the notebook and tore out the first page, then the next, until the binding was bare. The crumpled pages landed in the trash with a satisfying thud. I pulled out a pen and wrote on a fresh sheet my plans. Mine. 1. Visit the townhouse alone. 2. Talk to Eleanor's neighbors. 3. Decide about the cottage. 4. Be honest with Mia. 5. Find my own lawyer. My hand shook, but my heart felt lighter. For the first time in years, I wasn't reacting to Margaret, I was choosing. The next morning, Mia shuffled into the kitchen, her hair a mess, eyes heavy with sleep. "Did Grandma come back?" she asked, stirring her tea. "Not yet," I said, pouring her a cup. She looked at me, her gaze sharp despite the yawn. "You okay, Mom?" I nodded, and for once, I meant it. "I'm figuring it out, sweetheart." Her smile, small but real, felt like a promise. I wasn't just fighting for me, I was fighting for her, for the life we deserved. And I wasn't going to let Margaret steal it. The phone rang at 9 a.m., a number I didn't recognize. "Rachel, it's Clara," the voice said, Margaret's daughter, my sister-in-law, calling from Atlanta. "Mom told me about the inheritance. I can't believe you're cutting her out like this." Her words hit like a slap. Clara hadn't visited in years, but now she was Margaret's mouthpiece. "She's been there for you," she said. "And now you think you're too good for us?" I laughed, not out of joy but exhaustion. "There for me? She's been controlling me, Clara. There's a difference." She scoffed and hung up, but her call left a bitter taste. Later that day, I came home to find Mia at the kitchen table, her face pale. "Grandma was here," she said. "With some guy, said he was from church, but he asked me weird questions about you. Like, if you've been acting strange." My blood ran cold. Margaret was building a case, using Mia to do it. I hugged her tight. "You did the right thing, not answering. I'm so proud of you." But inside, I was shaking not with fear, but fury. She'd crossed a line. I called James Whitaker, the lawyer from Eleanor's estate. "Margaret's trying to contest the will," I told him, spilling everything, her threats, her manipulation, the social services scare. He listened quietly, then said, "This is intimidation, Rachel. We'll build a case, letters, witnesses, anything to show Eleanor's intent and Margaret's pattern. You're not alone." His calm voice steadied me. That night, I tucked Mia in and promised her we'd be okay. Her small nod gave me strength. Margaret thought she could scare me into submission, but she'd underestimated me and Eleanor's faith in me. 2 days later, the social worker, Ms. Karen Brooks, arrived at our house. I'd spent hours preparing, gathering pay stubs, Mia's report cards, her theater club schedule, proof we were a stable, happy home. My hands shook as I opened the door, but I smiled, welcoming her into our small living room. Karen, in her late 50s with kind but tired eyes, sat across from me, flipping through a file. "We received a report from Margaret Ellis," she said. "She claims you're unstable, possibly neglecting Mia due to this inheritance." My chest tightened, but I kept my voice steady. I laid out my folder, evidence of our routine, Mia's straight-A grades, our quiet dinners together. I spoke carefully about Margaret, not calling her cruel, but explaining her need to control, how she'd hovered over us since David's death. "Nothing's changed in our lives except paperwork," I said. "This isn't about Mia's welfare, it's about power." Karen nodded, jotting notes. She spoke with Mia alone, and I stood in the kitchen, stirring tea I didn't drink, listening to the murmur of their voices. When Karen emerged, she looked at me. "Mia's bright, well-adjusted. We'll need a home visit follow-up, but I see no cause for concern." Relief flooded me, but her next words sobered me up. "Mrs. Ellis is persistent. She's filed another report, claiming you're isolating Mia. Be prepared." I nodded, thanking her as she left. That night, Mia curled up next to me on the couch. "What if they believe her?" she whispered. I took her hand. "Then we'll show them the truth together." Her small smile was enough to keep me fighting. The morning of the probate court hearing, I stood in front of my mirror, navy dress pressed, hair pulled back, not to look powerful but to feel steady. The Savannah courthouse, with its old brick and ivy, loomed heavy as I walked in. Margaret arrived late, her pearl brooch gleaming, her face tight, Clara at her side like a shadow. James gave me a nod. "Stick to the truth. Let them unravel." Inside, the courtroom was all hushed formality. The judge, a woman with sharp eyes, listened as Margaret's lawyer claimed Eleanor was vulnerable, that I'd manipulated her to cut out the family. My jaw clenched, but I stayed calm. James stood, his voice even. "We have evidence, letters, neighbor statements, proving Eleanor Tate's clarity and Mrs. Ellis's history of intimidation." He handed over a folder, including a letter Margaret wrote to Eleanor years ago. "Rachel's selfish, hiding behind her quiet act. Don't trust her." Eleanor had underlined it and written, "I see her clearly." I answered questions simply. How Eleanor invited us over, taught Mia to write stories, shared her love for Savannah's history. Margaret took the stand, her voice dripping with concern. "Rachel's always been fragile. She used Eleanor's loneliness." The judge asked, "When did you last see Miss Tate?" Margaret faltered. "We had a falling out." The room felt lighter, like a storm breaking. When the judge ruled in my favor, citing Eleanor's clear intent, I exhaled. Outside, Margaret approached, her voice low. "You've made a mistake, Rachel." I met her gaze. "No, I've stopped making them." She walked away, her heels echoing defeat. 2 months later, Mia and I moved into the townhouse on Jones Street, its pale blue shutters and creaky floors welcoming us like an old friend. I walked away from my city hall job, 9 years of pushing paper that dulled my spirit. With a small piece of the inheritance, I opened a studio, a bright space with wide windows, shelves for my notebooks, and walls for Mia's photographs. It wasn't just a place to work, it was a place to breathe, to create, to be the woman I'd forgotten I could be. The first night in the townhouse, Mia wandered through the rooms, running her fingers over Eleanor's old books, marveling at the hand-painted tiles in the kitchen. "Did Eleanor really use this teapot every day?" she asked, holding up a chipped porcelain relic. I smiled. Knowing her, she did. She didn't save things for special occasions. That became our rule, no more waiting. We used the good dishes, lit candles for weeknight dinners, lived like every day mattered. Neighbors stopped by, curious about the Tate house. "Why you?" they'd ask, not unkindly. I'd pause, then say, "Because Eleanor saw me when I couldn't see myself." Margaret faded from our lives, her calls unanswered, her shadow smaller. I heard she sold one of her properties, maybe to save face after the court loss. I didn't care. For the first time, I was building something that was mine, and Mia was right there with me, her laughter filling the house like sunlight. Mia bloomed in her new school, a private academy in Savannah where her scholarship covered half the tuition, and the inheritance filled the gap. She joined the theater club, landing a role as Puck in A Midsummer Night's Dream, her eyes sparkling as she practiced lines on our porch. Watching her on stage, twirling in a green costume she'd helped design, I cried, not from sadness, but from pride. My girl was finding her voice, just as I was finding mine. One night after the show, Margaret was there, standing by the theater's brick wall, dressed in black like she was auditioning for a tragedy. I just wanted to see her, she said, holding a gift bag with tissue paper spilling out. It's not a crime, is it? I took the bag gently. No, but showing up unannounced isn't the way. She looked older, her face softer, like the fight had drained her. I'm not the monster you think, she said. I held her gaze. You're not a monster. You just thought love meant control. She blinked, speechless, as I walked away. At home, Mia opened the bag, a charm bracelet with a tiny M and a note, for the moments we missed. Love, Grandma. She looked at me, uncertain. What do I do? I touched her hand. It's your choice, sweetheart. She slipped the bracelet into a drawer. Maybe someday, she said, and I nodded. That was enough. Mia was learning what I'd fought for, her right to decide, to set boundaries, to be herself without apology. Spring came early to Savannah, the azaleas bursting pink along our fence, the air sweet with magnolia and possibility. Mia planted basil and mint on the townhouse windowsill, naming them like pets, Sir Basil, Lady Mint. Her laughter echoed through the house, louder than it had been in years. One afternoon, as we sat on the porch swing, lemonade sweating in our glasses, she looked at me. Would Dad have liked this place? I closed my eyes, picturing David's quiet smile. He'd have loved seeing us here, I said. Free, happy ourselves. The townhouse wasn't just a house, it was a promise kept. Eleanor didn't leave me walls and windows. She left me permission to stop shrinking, to stop apologizing for wanting more. I'd spent years letting Margaret's voice drown out my own, believing her control was love, her criticism was care. But love doesn't demand silence. It doesn't clip your wings. Real love, like Eleanor's, like Mia's, lifts you up and sets you free. I won because I stopped hiding. I chose truth over fear, peace over control. And if you're out there, feeling small because someone, family or not, tells you you're not enough, listen to me. You don't owe them your silence. You don't need their permission to be whole. Say no, stand tall, and write your own story. You're stronger than you know. To everyone who's walked this journey with me, thank you. You've seen me through grief, battles, and new beginnings. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button and join us, where every moment tells a story of courage, heart, and claiming your own space. Keep chasing your truth, and I'll meet you on the other side.